There is a version of your truck that the manufacturer never wanted you to build. No touchscreen, no over-the-air updates, no module waiting to go into limp mode because a sensor disagreed with the software. Just switches, just knobs, just a driver and a machine that does exactly what the driver tells it to do. That version of your truck is possible, and everything standing between you and it is software you never agreed to own. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside a modern truck tab. When you reach for your climate controls and touch a screen instead of a knob, that is not a luxury upgrade. That is a dependency they built into the vehicle on purpose. Every function that used to be a physical switch is now a menu item inside a module. That module talks to other modules. Those modules require calibration. That calibration requires a dealer scan tool in most cases. And that scan tool requires a subscription, a code, and a technician who answers to the manufacturer, not to you. This is not an accident. This is architecture. They designed the system this way because a truck you cannot service yourself is a truck that comes back to the dealership repeatedly. Think about what a simple HVAC blend door used to be. A cable, sometimes a vacuum line, a knob on the dash connected to a mechanical actuator. You could diagnose it with your eyes. You could fix it with your hands. Now, that same function runs through a body control module, a separate blend door actuator motor with its own position sensor, and a climate control head unit that needs to see the right CAN bus signals before it will respond. When that system fails on a late model truck, the repair estimate does not start at $40. It starts at $400, and it can climb past $1,000 if the module needs reprogramming. Mechanics who have worked on trucks for 20-plus years will tell you the same thing. The failure points multiplied the moment they moved physical controls into software menus, and the failures are not random. They follow patterns. Actuators that strip out after 6 or 7 winters, touchscreen units that develop dead zones and require full replacement because the manufacturer does not sell individual digitizer panels, control modules that lose their calibration data after a battery disconnect and refuse to operate correctly until a dealer learns the system. The dealership will tell you this is progress. What they will not tell you is that every one of these failure points is a revenue event for their service department. Now, here is where it gets important. There is a growing segment of truck owners, mostly in rural areas, working trades, agriculture, and diesel communities, who are actively reverse engineering their own vehicles, not to cheat emissions, not to break anything, to remove their dependency on systems that were never designed to serve them in the first place. The manual conversion blueprint is exactly what it sounds like, identifying every function in the cab that currently runs through a software layer and replacing it with a physical control that has no digital dependency. This is not theoretical. People are doing this right now, and the knowledge base around it is growing. Start with lighting. Interior lighting on most modern trucks is controlled through the BCM, but the physical circuit is still there. Relay logic still works. You can wire auxiliary lighting controls directly to fused switched power with a physical toggle and bypass the module entirely for anything you're adding to the truck. You own what you wire. The module does not get a vote on that circuit. Move to fan control. On older body styles, even into the mid-2000s, manual fan speed switches were rheostat-based, simple resistor packs, fully rebuildable. On current trucks, the HVAC blower runs off a solid-state controller that the climate module communicates with digitally. When that controller fails, and they do fail, you're looking at a module replacement, not a $10 resistor. The conversion path exists. It requires understanding the circuit, sourcing the right relay and switch hardware, and being willing to do the work, but it is possible. And once it's done, that system no longer has a software failure mode. Throttle feel is another one. Drive-by-wire systems on modern trucks have a throttle pedal position sensor sending a signal to the ECM, which then decides how much throttle to give the engine. There's a calibration built into that system. There are also tuning modules on the market that sit between the pedal sensor and the ECM and translate the signal to change throttle response. That's a physical intervention on a signal path. Mechanics who build work trucks and off-road rigs understand this well. The truck does what the tuner tells it to do, not what the manufacturer's comfort map says it should do.
Now talk about 4WD systems. Older trucks had manual locking hoods. You got out of the cab and engaged them by hand. You knew they were locked because you physically turned them. That mechanical confirmation is gone on most modern trucks. The electronically locking front differential is controlled by a switch that sends a request to the transfer case control module, which decides whether to honor it. When the module has a fault, when the encoder motor has a fault, when the communication line between them is corroded, the system refuses to engage, and you find out when you need it most, high-centered on a wet field road with a full load in the bed. The aftermarket mechanical conversion kits for those front axles still exist for older platforms, and there are people who prioritize that certainty over the electronic convenience, because certainty is the point. What they don't want you to understand is that the modern truck's complexity is not a feature ceiling you have to accept. It's a starting point you can work backwards from. Every system that currently depends on a module had a predecessor that did not, and in most cases, that predecessor design still works. This is not about living in the past. This is about owning your equipment. There is a real difference between a truck you understand and a truck that's licensed to you through software. When you roll into a job site in something with a mechanical speedometer, a vacuum brake booster, and toggle switches on a fuse block you built yourself, nobody's cutting your access remotely. Nobody's rolling out an update that changes how your vehicle behaves overnight. Nobody's reading telematics data off your work patterns. The trucks being hoarded right now by mechanics who have been in the trade for 30 years are not being hoarded because they're sentimental. They're being hoarded because those men understand what a repair looks like when the answer is on the machine and not locked inside a software package at the dealership. An older body-on-frame diesel with a mechanical injection pump does not need a laptop to tell it how to run. It tells you how it's running through sound, smoke, feel, and physical feedback. That's information you can act on. The manual conversion blueprint is not a fringe idea. It's the logical response to a vehicle industry that stopped engineering for the owner and started engineering for the subscription model. Switch by switch, relay by relay, circuit by circuit, you can build back the ownership that was deliberately taken out of these trucks. The question I want you to answer in the comments is this: what is the first system in your truck you would convert back to a physical control if you had the blueprint to do it? If you believe in the right to actually own what you paid for, subscribe. We cover what the dealership does not want you to figure out on your own.